working on this song, I thought, what if in 1996 God became, like a homosexual that buys Macintosh computers? And I got to thinking, maybe we're not so different, us and that Macintosh using homosexual God. And so the song's about getting drunk and just writing a love letter to the woman, maybe you blew it with a couple of years ago, but now turns out she's a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And she's got her gender changed. And you're planning on meeting up at the one Jamba Juice they just opened in Perryville. Maybe try sucking her dick for a change.
What do you call it when you don't forget something? You remember. It has been an excruciating month for me emotionally. As someone who's, while not technically unemployed, whose employment is hanging on by a very gossamer thread, and whose entire identity is based around the media she consumes. So it would stand to reason why, with this amazing digital circus finale and Deltarune coming out with a new chapter this month, with that we got to do a little bit of algebra here, a little bit of addition, a little bit of subtraction, a little bit of adding, taking one to one side and one to the other. How's that sound? I'm going to be taking you on a little math equation, right? And you might be thinking, what the hell does any of this have to do with the prophecy, right? Well, I'll tell you. The prophecy has everything to do with everything. Ever. And if I can't prove that to you with just my words, maybe I can do it with a video essay. Classic YouTuber style. So sit back, enjoy, have a little bit of drink with you. If I can find my drink. Sorry, it's impossible to see good with math. With just my face. About you. Let's talk circus. Warning, just a warning for all my viewers out there. This video contains spoilers for The Amazing Digital Circus, Episode 9. In case you didn't know how to read, this episode also contains spoilers for The Amazing Digital Circus, the rest of the episodes. In case you didn't know how to read between the lines. Between the Lions. Remember that show? We're bringing that back today. I'm just kidding, by the way. You know I don't care if you don't know how to read. I have a working theory that 1 in 4 people are functionally illiterate. And if you're functionally illiterate, then don't forget to like and subscribe so I can teach you how to read. Maybe not words, but media. That's important. Yeah, like and subscribe for more Hyperlink Blocked. So what the hell happened here? So the episode starts and Kane is dead. Everyone doesn't know how to process this fact, least of all Jax. Then we find out everyone's a brain scan. And we kind of got glimpses of this in the episode prior. We were figuring out, we're all trapped. Obviously, they're all trapped inside a computer game, but they have memories of being real people. And now we find out that Scratch, the first abstraction, was the one making all this stuff. And he was creating something which Kinger remembers was brain scans when he was doing all the stuff in the previous episode trying to get everyone out of the circus. But, we're trapped. We can't do nothing. We're just stuck here in the circus. We can still conjure stuff and it's kind of fun. Jax thinks conjuring is gay, so he kills himself. And Jax and Ragatha used to be friends, but he ended up being transphobic? What's up with that? Pomni is tasked with taking out the trash, but ends up becoming friends with the trash instead? Jax has cartoonish murder fantasies. Wow, just like me. Also, he can play piano. Wait a minute. This seems a bit familiar. Cartoonish murder fantasies. You play piano. His weird issues with gender and doesn't have any friends. This seems a little bit familiar. I can't seem to put my finger on why. Or any of my hand for that matter. In fact, I can't seem to find my hand at all. Turns out Jax used to be a normal suburban MFer who ran away, became homeless, and ended up in the circus gay and afraid. He, Ribbon, and Kaufmo became fast friends and hung out all the time until one fateful day, he opened up. It was at this point where I felt like they had picked me up and copied down my entire life story on the paper, like they were reading my mind or picking up my electricity beams or something. Or both? Yeah, so I'm just gonna let Jax talk here. So from all that conversation, from all that trauma, from all that stuff that was said, Ribbit knew. Now, I'm not gonna go into detail here, but some people are really good at clocking eggs. As I said, I'm not gonna go into too much detail there. But the thing is, it all went downhill from there. So I don't know if you know about this, but there's this little thing called the Egg Prime Directive. By the way, Egg is someone who hasn't realized they're trans yet. Jax is a girl. So from here on out, I will be referring to her as such. You can drop all the pretenses. But she didn't know that. And now all of a sudden, the trust is shattered. Everything is broken. Everything is destroyed. Everything has gone to shit. And I'm not going to say it's Ribbit's fault because, you know, who could have known? Right? She's just trying to be there for her friend. Maybe Jax is a bad person because of the bad decisions that he badly makes. Or she. Who knows? And here we are. Pomni and Jax have one last hug, and it feels like something big is about to happen. But nope, Jax dies and is dead forever. After the Jax show, we have the Kane show. Shortly after dying, or longly after, who the fuck knows, Kane realized he fucked up, and has to work to improve himself by not killing Bubble. And I'm gonna huff the copium extra hard and say that Kane remembering everything and Scratch coming back, I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna completely throw whatever the whole like abstraction is a metaphor for dying thing. I'm gonna throw all that out the window and say it's possible that communion with the dead is not only possible, but achievable through magic. The magic of Wi-Fi, that is. So, there's still hope. Unless you kill yourself in real life, in which case you're fucked. Kane is now living the happy life that gay chud could have had, and they all lived happily ever after.
So what does this all mean? Well, there's three things that I think we can all extrapolate from this. One, the Gooseworks official meaning of this show, which is that there's meaning to be found in a stagnant life. The second thing, repression kills, not just yourself, but others. And the third thing is that all of this is happening because Cain killed Abel. Haha, bet you didn't see that coming. Alright, let's take it back to Genesis. And when I say Genesis, I ain't talking Sega, I'm talking Bible.
Now, I'm going to get one thing out of the way before I get into this section. I am by no means a biblical scholar. I'm somebody who has a very cursory knowledge of these concepts, and somebody who knows that the Bible is not a literal book and should not be taken literally. I don't think there's going to be an actual fire raining down from the sky, brimstone apocalypse at the end of the world. I think that's just a movie, and I don't believe in it. What I do believe in is the allegorical messages that are put forth by the Bible, including this one, which I'm going to talk about right now. And here we go. Bible opening sound. Bible opening sound. There. Genesis chapter 4. This is the story of Cain and Abel. And this is the King James version, by the way. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of the sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother. And it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest of the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face I shall be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. So I just gave you the play-by-play here of the story of Cain and Abel, but let's break it down for a second. Cain, as it says right here in verse 2, was a tiller of the ground, while Abel was a keeper of sheep. Alright, and right, why signify this, they're just little farm boys, right? This is all allegory, right? Why include this, Are the curtains just blue? Are we just supposed to just take this at its word right here? Oh yeah, they did different stuff on the farm. Nah, dude. Abel, being a keeper of sheep, means that he's a shepherd. And, shepherds, they show up in the Bible in a number of places. You might know that the first guy that knew that Jesus was born was a shepherd. And you might know that Jesus said that he who shepherds his fellow men towards the light and the glory of God shall be his brother's keeper. Right? Hearkening back to this very story right here. Cain, being a tiller of the ground, means he is a man of the earth. Someone who comes into this place desiring worldly possessions and things, who may offer all this stuff. Oh God, check it out. It's just, oh man, God, you won't believe what I just did today. I just took my dick out and I beat it 7 times. Isn't that awesome? And then God was like, nah, dude, you're supposed to be, cool and holy, like your brother Abel here. And then Cain was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? What? So this guy's all cool with you because he's he meditates or something? What? Listen. What's the difference between him and I? You never explain that. So screw it, I'm just gonna kill this guy. But then by killing this guy, oh wow. Yeah, he's dead, but I also feel like a piece of shit for it. I hope nobody kills me, because that would really suck. And here's the thing, right? If you are really sad, what do? You kill yourself. But you're killing your body, as in you're killing Cain, right? You already killed Abel a long time ago. You know, Cain already did that. Because if you look and you're only seeing what's out there in the world, if you're a tiller of the ground instead of a keeper of sheep, then you think that everything sucks ass and everything's terrible. And no wonder you want to kill yourself. And so if you're able, though, if you're seeing the things, you know, in balance, if you're seeing the spiritual side, right? Now Cain and Abel, you know, this might be, you know, one way to explain the whole concept of opposites and like the good and the bad. You know, out in China they got this thing called yin and yang. You know, they're all going around and round in circles, and there's a little bit of one and the other. But these guys, Cain and Abel, that's basically like the Hebrew version of that. And so, you know, that's what does that have to do with why call Cain the computer that thing, and why call Abel the other AI that? Here's what's one thing that Cain is always doing. Whenever Bubble shows up, he gets pissed off and he kills Bubble. Pops right in the bubble. Pops Bubble right in the bubble. And then he kills Abel, the NPC, who might also be a human, who might be Kaufmo. That's a crazy theory. You guys ever think about that? So then we get to the final episode where Cain is floating around in the void. The red AI, but the little blue AI. But they're two parts of each other, right? They're always at war with each other. Cain's always killing Bubble, and Bubble's just, you know, Bubble's just being attacked for putting out new ideas. And then Cain's just like, I don't want to hear all that crap. But then, you know, once Cain dies, once Cain is out in the void floating around, and he's like, oh, wait a minute. That sucked, what I did. How can I make this better? And that's where the process begins. Or instead of killing Bubble, Cain sets Bubble free to float around and allow the natural process of evolution to take place. And that's what it means to improve yourself and to be a self-improvement god who wakes up at 4 a.m. and does all that cold shower stuff. And Cain, now with his newfound powers, can realize what's really underneath the surface is the beauty of life. And I know I'm kind of just saying words here. I'm not really making a whole lot of sense, but, you know, just think about it a little bit. All right? Obviously, you know, people are like, "Oh, this is the first murder. This story is explaining why murder is bad." And you know, obviously murder is not good. But here's the thing. You got to think about it in terms of the greater picture. What are we all here for? We all just show up in the circus as these wacky cartoon characters. What the hell are we supposed to do? You know, just run around, just kicking and screaming at each other? None of this is real. None of this actually matters. You know, I can just, do whatever I want. I can just listen to my body instead of my spirit. That's not the case at all. And this is why Cain is in the place of Jax now, is because he figured that out. So figure that out before it's too late. Wink, wink. I hope nobody watching this video kills themselves. That would be really bad. Please don't. There's hotlines. I wish I could post them, but I Can't find them. They're somewhere though. Maybe this project for you. Find the hotlines and report them back to me. Thank you. And never kill yourself, because Deltarune is coming out in what, like 5 days? Man, this is coming here fast. 4 days, I think. 3 days, 3.5. Coming out really fast. Just like life comes at you fast. Thank you. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more hyperlink blocks.
Alright, I wanted to make a quick outro / conclusion / wrap up statement for this video, because I realized as I'm about to post it that I completely forgot to tie it back around to Deltarune, which, in case you didn't know how to read, call back to the beginning of the video, that's the whole point of the series. It's called the Church of Deltarune. So, like, why would I forget that? Because I'm stupid. Alright, jokes aside here. Let's bring it back and let's talk about... Alright, we've been talking about the Bible, we've been talking about gender, and we've been talking about mostly those two things. There's a whole section I blanked out of this video because I didn't want to post it. But yeah, what does anything of this have to do with Deltarune, right? I mentioned Chris, and that's about it, right? Everyone in Deltarune has some sort of weird gender stuff going on, alright? And, what do people who don't like all this gender stuff, what do they cite? The Bible, right? One of the most misinterpreted statements in the Bible, right? We talked about the book of Genesis. We're going back to Genesis 1, verse 27, where it says, something along the lines of, God created man, in his own image made he him, male and female made he them. And so, right, you think like, oh, that's God's plan is, for there to be boys and boys have a penis and girls have a vagina, that's how I was raised, so that's how it ought to be, right? Wrong. Guess what? Male and female are how God created Adam, not Adam and Eve. Adam was created in Genesis 1, but Eve wasn't until Genesis 2. So, boom, shakalaka. What does that mean, though? Male and female. Well, here's what it means. It means the same thing as Cain and Abel. Cain is of the earth, and Abel is of the spirit. Male is of the earth, and female is of the spirit. Right? That doesn't mean that one is necessarily better than the other. That just means you shouldn't kill women. You should respect women. Alright? And, in case you couldn't tell, Jax is a woman. Right? I got that. I called that, when she was talking about being a misunderstood little chicken fetus. I know what that meant. I knew what that meant. And so, Deltarune, right? There's a lot of eggs in Deltarune. You collect them. You go into the room, and then there was a man here, and then there was not a man here. And, right? And that's not to mention all the numerous weird gender stuff in that game, which I alluded to earlier. Chris, obviously. There's some stuff, maybe Noelle might be trans because of her stupid fucked up room. Well, maybe there's another trans character that might be, tied into the themes of Deltarune, and that's Ralsei. Who's up for some transfemme Ralsei theory? I sure am. I know I called my shot with transfemme Jax. I'm calling it with transfemme Ralsei now, alright? I'm at the line now. I'm shooting 2. I sunk the first one, and God knows I'm going to sink the second one. Alright? I'm calling it right now. Ralsei's a girl. And I'm never going to be referring to Ralsei as a guy in this video series. And you heard it here, alright? Make sure my antlers are on straight. I always, those things are, rickety. They're always falling off. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't use Scotch tape for them. But, yeah. Anyways, if this Bible stuff is sounding crazy to you and you think, oh, that's cool, alright, I'm going to link a series of videos in the playlist down below in the description. You can click on it. These sermons by this guy Bill Donahue, who I just discovered. You know, he's got all these videos about the hidden meanings of the Bible and the dark sayings and the secret teachings and what it actually means. Alright, so if you're a freak like I am, so you can feel free to go check that out. And, you know, that's where I'm leaving it. Okay, bye.